know, you are listening to Focal Point on AFR, and I am not Brian Fisher. I am the very honored Dr. Gina Loudon. Glad to stand in for my friend Brian Fisher today here on AFR with you. One of the issues paramount in my mind is our Marine being held in a Mexican prison for almost 2 months now. He has been shackled. He has been tortured. His life has been threatened. And so yesterday, I decided to organize a protest on the American and Mexican border to send a message, not just to the Mexican government, but also to the American government, saying, somebody, for crying out loud, get smart here and do something about this. And so, of course, the very first call I made was to one of my very best friends and very best political allies and one of the smartest, most savvy, amazing women in all of media today. And that is my next guest, Anne-Marie Murrell, National Director of Politichicks.tv. You can follow her on Twitter at PolitichickAM for Anne-Marie. And we are happy to have her in studio with us today. Anne-Marie, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Gina.
Now, what was it about this particular, you actually were scheduled for a very important meeting with the governor and who was staying at your house, by the way. How cool is that? Governors don't come stay at my house. I'm just going to get that out of the way. But you said...
won't tell anyone where you live.
Well,
that's the problem. I haven't been there yet.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you... made other plans to come and be on the border with me yesterday. Yeah. It was a long drive for you. You had a lot of other places you could be. But you said, no, I'm going to be there. Why?
Because it's the right thing to do. And the fact that our Marine is in a Mexican prison right next door. This is an ally. It's not like Iran or Afghanistan. I mean, this is right next door. And the fact that he's there because he made a wrong turn. He made one wrong exit and boom.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's why.
Yeah.
One of the things I talked about extensively with his mother was his history. This guy, people are trying to turn him into some kind of criminal. We're talking about a bright scholar who had a $150,000 scholarship to an aeronautical school. He had a college scholarship, undergrad scholarship to any place he wanted to go in the whole country. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to use that scholarship, Mom, because I don't want to waste your money and I don't want to waste the American government's money in scholarships they've given me to any university I want to go to in the country. I instead am going to take some time to reflect. And he went to Alaska and went on a fishing junket. It became a commercial fisherman for 6 months. He came back. It was 4th of July. He went to church with his parents that day. They were sitting in church. They came out. He said, Mom, God just nudged me to go into the military. I hope you're okay with that. And his mom said, we are from a long, proud line of men who have served this country. And, of course, no mother wants to hear that their son is going to the military. Not really, not in her heart, but in her head. She said, I'll support you. So he goes into the military. He serves one tour of duty. He suffers a concussion, a bad concussion, but he goes back for another tour of duty to defend America from terrorists. And, by the way, to defend Mexico from terrorists. Because you defend the entire world against terrorists when you go fight in Afghanistan. His second tour, he endures more trauma. Gets a second concussion, is completely blacked out for hours on end. He gets out. He is meritoriously awarded the rank of sergeant at the age of 25. Very unusual, my understanding is. And he gets out and he has post-traumatic stress disorder. He's diagnosed. He comes to San Diego for treatment from Florida in his home. He's diagnosed, I believe, on March 12th. I might have these dates wrong. Don't hold me to them. His first counseling appointment is to be March 31st. He takes a wrong turn and ends up, like many of us could do, ends up in Mexico. And Anne-Marie, I say, people want to judge him for ending up in this Mexican prison for taking a wrong turn. Let he who has never taken a wrong turn cast the first stone.
Oh, Lord. I would be in jail 1,000,000 times over.
1,000,000 times over.
For wrong directions.
For wrong turns.
I've lived in my same town for almost 15 years, and I still get lost in my town.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've only lived in San Diego 2 years, and I get lost all the time. Well, and I can barely drive myself anywhere. It's just a strong suit, not sense of direction. Mm-hmm. And Andrew's mother told me, we're going to have her here on the show, Jill Tamarisi, coming up in just a little while. But she said to me, it's funny because he's such a brilliant guy. Obviously, all the things I just told you. Directions have never been his strong suit. Yeah. He took a wrong turn. But you know what? At that turn, anyone could take a wrong turn. Now, people say, why did he have the guns in the car? You're the mother of a young son, not too far from the age of Andrew.
Right.
My sons are much littler. But he was moving across the country to get treatment for his PTSD. His truck had all his belongings in it. It wasn't
his guns.
They make it sound like he had guns and ammo in his truck. No, he had guns and ammo. He had his tools. He had his clothes in hefty bags. We can picture our boys packing like that, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
All in this Ford F-150 because he was relocating here to get treatment for the PTSD that was giving him anxiety, according to Jill, and precluding him from carrying on with his aeronautical career, where he has a $150,000 scholarship waiting for him the moment he's recovered from his PTSD. But instead, he ends up in a Mexican prison, Anne-Marie, where he is re-traumatized.
Yeah.
What would you do if this was your son?
I would be doing the same thing that Jill Tamarisi's doing. I would be subjected to strip searches, and I would go in there, like you said yesterday at the rally, that that's what she did. She was strip searched to just go visit him and bring him some new sweatpants. I would do the same thing. I don't know. I would maybe camp out in front of the Tecate jail right now. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
It's unimaginable. And this is not, like you keep saying, this is not a bad kid. This is not someone who had a criminal record or has been in trouble with drugs or anything else. And of course, we've heard online all these rumors that are going on, oh, he was gun running. How do you gun run with 3 guns? You don't. That's not gun running. That's your gun. If you're in Texas, that you're not carrying very many guns in Texas. You're traveling light with 3 guns in your car.
Well, or a lot of other southern states as well.
Well, yeah.
But people want to question his character. You don't call 911 and say, "Oh,
right.
I have guns. Take me."
Right.
If you're doing something secretive. Also, if he had anything to hide, his mother wouldn't be out there front and center. Those of us in media know those mothers, they go silent on legal advice. Let me tell you, every lawyer in the country right now is telling her to shut up and quit doing interviews, and she's saying, "No, I want the truth discovered." The other thing is he refused to perjure himself in the Mexican jail. He fired his lawyer because he refused to perjure himself. You don't do that when you're a drug runner. This is the other thing I thought was funny. The rumor got out, he'd been back and forth to Mexico 6 times. And so people started saying 6 times that day. I know firsthand, ain't no way you're going back and forth to Mexico 6 times in a day. You wait 3 hours to go one way. If you multiply 3 hours times 6 times, it's physically impossible to get anything done. All you do is drive back and forth and sit in the lines.
That's right.
It's impossible. And so some of the stuff that's getting out there is just ridiculous. But I think it all really comes down to Americans saying, hey, what's the history of this guy? And I know one thing, Congressman Duncan Hunter has taken up this cause. And
Tim Donnelly.
And Tim Donnelly, absolutely. And those are the kind of guys who have entire staffs to do all the research and get all the paperwork right in front of them.
Right. And they're not going to risk their career.
That's it. That's the other thing. That's the other piece of
Right.
evidence that I think people, when they think this through, need to think about.
Yeah.
What do you think going forward? We don't even have dates as far as when he's going to have his next hearing. We don't know. What do you think going forward? How do you think this is going to unroll, Anne-Marie?
It's the worst case scenario is terrifying because he could face up to 20 years in a Mexican prison.
Yeah.
And he's already been threatened. His life has been threatened. Of course, he's not in friendly territory.
No, and he needs treatment.
He needs treatment. And who's going to, in a Mexican jail, you're not going to get treated for any of your illness.
Yeah, and in the Mexican jail, they also said they weren't even familiar with post-traumatic stress disorder. So they're certainly not treating it.
Right.
He's getting no treatment. And meanwhile, Obama and John Kerry are letting him completely sit there. This reminds me of this.
Well, they're working on the NFL, though, Gina. That is a very important issue in America today.
Our government at work for our military. And by the way, our people who suffer from mental health problems. I mean, if this were AIDS, would they be letting him sit over there with no treatment? I don't think so. But this is a mental health issue.
Well, someone said yesterday, if he came out and said he was gay and he wanted a sex change, I bet Obama would be on the phone immediately.
He'd be right on that.
Yeah,
he'd be right on that.
I mean, and that's it's kind of funny, but it's not really funny because it's the truth.
Mm-hmm. What else do you think, folks in the center or the southern part of the country who encompass much of this audience here on Focal Point? What do you think they don't know about this case that we need to be sure they understand about Andrew Tamarisi?
Well, first of all, they need to understand how it's not just a matter. It's when you go through the main part of the border, it does take hours to get through. where he was isn't that part of the border. It's a separate part. There's one little sign. If you glance away, you're going to miss that sign.
Yeah.
And it's not a matter of just being able to turn around and go back to America. You're stuck.
You're stuck in lanes of traffic, and you can't back up, and you can't turn out either. There's nothing you can do.
There's big barriers, big cement barriers keeping you from even going to any other lane.
Right.
You're stuck.
Right.
You have to follow, and you have to go to this big turnaround. That's where he was when he said, I'm stuck. I can't get out.
Yeah, 911 help me. And she didn't even help him.
Yeah.
That was very
said,
disturbing.
too bad.
Yeah,
You're in
too
the
bad.
wrong place.
You're in the wrong place. Too bad for you.
Yeah.
This reminds me a lot of our new book we have coming out in September.
Yes.
It's called What Women Really Want. And we are taking head on, you and, of course, Morgan Brittany, our other co-anchor with us on politichicks.tv. We are taking head on the contention by the left that there's a Republican war on women. We don't see it that way. The audience.
No. It is the most ridiculous, imbecilic thing in the world, this fake war on women. The only war there is a war on us, on conservatism, on anyone who disagrees and doesn't fall in line with every single issue that the left believes in. I used to be a Democrat. You are put in a box. You're not allowed to go outside of that box. Our side is not like that. We are very diverse. We are the diverse people. So yeah, the fact that they're trying to say it's the opposite.
Yeah, and some of the things that women really do want, according to our book, I mean, we can give them just a little sneak peek, is we want to be able to provide for our families, like Jill Tamarisi out here fighting for her son. Yep. We want to be able to provide economically for our family. You know, now, because of the left and their antics and their fake war on women, women are being so forced into the workplace. Most women today, many women, don't have a choice anymore to stay home. These are some of the things that we're going to fight. Our book will be available in September. They can go to politichicks.tv and learn a lot more about it. It is available now for pre-order on Amazon as well.
Yes.
Anything else we want them to know?
No, another thing that we talk about in the book is activism and what you are doing and what you did with this rally. I know you said a million times yesterday, why did I do this? Why did I do this? And it's the opposite. It's why wouldn't you do this? Why wouldn't people step up? And when no one else does, it's time for you to do it.
Absolutely. We're going to go to your calls. We want to know what your answers are in the Andrew Tamarisi situation. 888-589-8840. 888-589-8840. Should we block the highways? Should we close the border? Should we scream diplomacy? We want to hear what you have to say. Coming up, stay with us.